We are living legends.
Know thyself, and you shall know all the mysteries of the gods, and of the universe. For more spirit science content, give a thumbs up and like. Don't forget to subscribe to stay in tune, and hit the bell for new spirit science videos. Spirit science of the day. What is the soul? The 5 parts of the Egyptian soul are the Ren, the Ba, the Ka, the Shud, and the Ib. The Ba, your personality, the thing that makes you unique. The Ren, the secret name, your identity. It still exists even when you die, if your name is remembered. The Ka, your spirit, the life force that leaves your body when you die. The Ka can also power spells, but doing so can be deadly. The Ib is the heart, the record of good and bad deeds. It is weighed against the feather of truth. If the spirit passes the test, it is blessed with Aru, the Egyptian paradise. If it fails, the heart is eaten by Amit the devourer. The lice. The last part of your soul is the shoot, or the shadow. It can be used to perform a shadow execration, even more powerful than a standard execration. It is the silhouette of the soul, a backup copy. The Egyptian soul economy. The 3 directive souls, Ak, Ba, Ka. The 3 intermediary energies are Ran, Jab, or Hati, Shut, or Kaibit. The 3 executive elements are Sekhem, Sanhu, Nacht, or Sat. The Ak, bright, illumined, directs the whole intellectual sphere of a human being, and contains all of his or her intellectual potential, that may be trained. The hieroglyphic and logogram of the concept, Ak, is the walking bird. This element returned to Yaru, the heavens, the house of gods and goddesses. It is this element that is the messenger of the gods, that work in accord with the laws of Ma'at. Ak, of the deceased is identified with stars across the universe, because Ak is also the source of all wisdom. The living write letters to the stars, or to the Ak of their ancestors, leaving them in their graves, where the statue, Tut, of the deceased is erected. They awaited the reply in their dreams. Ren/Ren, the name, beautiful, happy, joyful, glorious, splendid, is the mirroring of the universal creative word, or Keror Medu. The name is considered a natural link in between the creative soul and Ak, and its passive executive form, the Sekhem, but also an intermediary element between the nature, gods and goddesses, and effective emotional domain of the being, called count name. Understood in such a way, it is associated with all governing forces over energy, and thus the physical world. The power of the name Ren depends on the quality of Ak of its beholder. Sekhem, the primal, unspoiled form of a human being. It is also the mirroring of the universal creative word, Keror Medu. The name is considered a natural link in between the creative soul and Ak, and its passive executive form the Sekhem. The ideal prototype of his body residing in the divine sphere of Nurtru. Visually, Sekhem reminded of the earthly body, but it does not have any defects, nor does it undergo the effects of time. Observing representation of the phenomena of timeless youth in artistic impressions, conjured by Egyptian masters of Sekhem of immortal beings, as they are considered artistic ideations of the earthly mirroring of Sekhem. This idealistic portrayals are considered the earthly mirroring of Sekhem, and they are given the name Tut, which were included by some researchers into the fundamental elements of your personality. Egyptians did not deny Tut, the figure, a form of life, Tutank, or a living image, but always considered Tut in the earthly substitute of Sekhem. Many researchers sought in Sekhem some active force, working in an autonomous manner, which might not be completely accurate. Because the same element was equal in the determinative of a standing mummy, which may be found amongst the concepts of other bodies, Sa, and Jet. All three elements of human nature belong to the same category of receptive, or passive forms. This is supported by Egyptian mythology, that the goddess Sekhmet, of personified Sekhem of the highest being, is seen as a passive executor of the will of the king of gods, Atum Reshepri, who, according to the stone of Shabaka, is understood as the heart and word of the pantheistic god Ptah. All of the mentioned elements of the human personality which work in the divine sphere of Neteru were considered the most perfect prototype of a mortal, thus the numinous mirroring of his earthly nature. The next triad of the elements of a human being are Ba, Yab, and Sa, belonging to the intermediating sphere of the whole being. Here, all weight of afterlife of a human being rests. Because it is them that determine it what will one do living one's life, and what was the intention of his doings. They are the main protagonists of the judgment over the dead, because they are responsible for a human being's conscious actions, and submit to the judgment over the dead. The Ba. This element is the soul, the reflexive, passionate element, responsible for life choices. Egyptians held that Ba was a loyal servant, thus the soul of one was his loyal servant, Bak. Ba is described in writing by two different determinatives. The older one is a black stork, the younger one falcon with a human head. The reflexive soul was thus considered an inseparable companion, which suggests motives and way of acting. Ba was not responsible for creative thought, but advised how they should be applied. It resided in the heart, Yab, and its inclinations influenced the active heart, Hati. The heart commanding separate senses and movements decided which of the Ba influences to execute, and which one should be rejected. When Ba is recommending inner tranquility, moderation, care for oneself and others, or it persuades Mat, then it has a chance of attaining the state of divinity and it awaits a reward in the afterlife. This happy fate met him or her only when they are one with self. When the Ba soul contradicted the order of Mat and influenced the human being to act against his conscience, co-feeling, or the voice of the Yab heart which was inscribed with unfaltering laws and principles stemming from Ren in the Neteru sphere. The soul or Ba in this case seemed to be a synonym of sobriety and at all costs it attempts to silence the burdened conscience. The Ba, attached to all pleasantries of life conjures its image and recommends idleness. Operating on rational arguments the Ba negates afterlife, just to protect yourself from suicide. It leads to the extermination of consciousness in the afterlife. So the life in opposition to Mat it portrays a noble death, which is saving from wickedness and assures existence in the afterlife. The conscience states that a person living in accordance with Mot has more influence in the world than the living body, attaining a degree of post-mortem divinity and the ability to conjure miracles. The Ba is not only belonging to the human existence, also gods and animals possess it. Yet, gods are not limited to having just one Ba as the rational friend. The Ba may undergo transformations. Of course, a Ba belonging to a deity is of much higher hierarchy than that of a mortal or an animal. It is higher, perfect, and infallible. In essence, the deity Ba is similar to the human Ak. Ba of the divine is a manifestation of Necharu. It inhabits the bodies of many animals. And this fact is the basis of Egyptian zoology. For example, the deity Horus, as the god of life, may be emanating through all living beings in the positive aspect of their expression. Yab, Hati, or heart is the key to the active human being. It is the temple and storehouse of thoughts, and is assigned a role similar to this that we are assigned to the brain nowadays. The brain and the cognitive processes and feelings are controlling the essential heart, therefore experiencing pain, suffering, influences, or cleanses the heart, alike to karmic inclinations. When the heart drowns in its despair, or becomes alike to stone, different from detached abiding, it grows cold. But not limited to biochemical physiological brain functions. It works with the components that give the feeling component authenticity, and the genius its proper spiritual function apart from a regular heart pumping blood through the organism. There is a hidden layer, a spiritual heart, and its circulation. In blood there is also contained the vital force of the heart. It is a violation to abuse the blood of one's heart, as it develops a parasitical dependence and reliance on someone else's heart, rejecting one's own as an independent being. The heart is divided into the passive form, conscience, called Yab, and directive active part, desire, direction, Hati. As conscience, the heart, Yab, is never bribed, and it may be a witness against the deceased in the world of the dead. Yab is directed towards the metaphysical world, while Hati directs the doing of a human being in the world of the senses, for Haisha means ruler. In Egyptian texts a function alike to defense double, Ka, controlling the visible physical body. Hati is guided by conscious working of our body, and Ka controls only the physiological functioning of our organism that is not guided by our will. Hati commands over Ka. It is in charge of the emotional, affective, cognitive, and other functions of the mind and body, establishing a seat of consciousness linking it with the true will, or the higher image. The Hati, heart, as a collection of active desires, emotions, also commands the passive form, body, related to the sphere of Ka, also called Sa. Sa is a passive being of the human being, which is at disposal of the heart, and executed through the meditation of the Sa, body, the will of the Ba soul. It is called the soul body, subtle body, or emotional body. It is a standing mummy, a corpse. It is said the true process of mummification was an attempt at turning a regular body into Sa, an astral double. Sa is the principal tool, a protective carrier shielding, in working of the Ba soul through mediation of the heart, and it could take any shapes and infiltrate physical matter. It can also shape it into proper, visible imaginations. It is here that one can morph its being into representations of deities, animals, plants, and symbols. It can also change things into another, transmutation. for example modifications on the mental astral plane, or endowing physical objects with various kinds of energy, consecrated or cursed objects. That is why Sa is an element, without which no magical work can be performed. The third sphere of the world, in which a human being played, is the physical world, called Natu. The three functional elements are directing, Ka, intermediary, Kaibit, Shu, and executive, Jet. From all listed elements of personality, only the last one is captured in a sensual way. Kaibit, shadow being, is a delicate substance, and Ka is considered an invisible caretaker sustaining the human body in a good condition. Ka is the closest to the form, close to Platonic ideas, others that it is a blind instinctual force without any form of spirituality. In fact, it is blind instinctual at first, but undergoes refinement into the divine, numinous ideas that penetrate this world as interpretable powers, or eternal grammar of the world, which understood, becomes reflected in it. The main function of Ka is providing nourishment to the physical body. The female version of Ka, or Hemsut, proves that this component has a role in sexual differences and regulated physiological needs. Ka has also some relation with the ancestors and heritability. Ka might look like a double, perhaps an astral double, representing the image of the person at a given time. Ka is not responsible for psychic and moral traits of a human being. The energy basis which Ka operates in governing the physiology of a human being is Kaibit, Shut. After death, Ka resides, with two other elements, in the grave, still having physical needs. Jet. One of the many names of the physical body. In Egyptian texts there are several synonyms. Kat, Sat, Ha, as the most sensuous of them all and the only fully accessible sensuous element that played a major function. The most important function of Jet was to execute the commands of heart, or Hati. In such a way the physical body realized in the world ideas of purely conceptual element. Ak descending from the divine sphere of Necharu, and through Jet the effects of conscious choice of man and his decisions which he makes in the sphere of Kau. After death, Jet was transformed into a mummy for Kaibit and Ka to live further.